What's up, guys? Let go the pencil here, and let's chat about how to improve My Hero Academia. Now, do I believe Horikoshi can do any of these things? Absolutely. These are specifically goals that are achievable for Horikoshi within his writing style and everything that I believe he can personally do, because I've seen him do it before in either other series or in My Hero Academia itself. So these are realistic things that I expect him to do, except for maybe the first one. And the first one I say is time skip. Now, I know that people are like, nah, time skip's not really that important, but I do believe, I already talked about this, I feel like the academia part of My Hero Academia is holding back My Hero Academia so much. I think it very much limits the potential of the series, considering we always have to flip back to a school arc. And while there are school arcs that do things well, such as the school festival arc, which balances both school and villains, where we are in the narrative doesn't support that sort of back and forth dichotomy anymore. It doesn't. We are in a time where the League of Villains are running rampant. They have their new all-for-one in Shigaraki, who is now likely to escape and achieve his full power. Then, of course, we also, on top of that, have the fact that everyone's just in dire straits right now. Gigantomachia is charging through, ready to kill everyone, going to go help out Shigaraki. There are so many things that literally cannot support the UA dichotomy anymore, and I think we need a time skip. I'm saying it, I'm pushing it, I'm always going to be pushing it, and the reason is a time skip allows a good time skip, because there are time skips that have been negligible for some main characters, negligible for characters in general, such as the one in Seven Deadly Sins. I don't think that time skip did much for anybody, really. I feel like the Naruto's time skip was important for Naruto when you look deeper into it, but on a fundamental level, it only changed his design. I need a time skip to come in and sort of overhaul the world. I need it because I think the series is in dire straits. The reason My Hero Academia is in a very locked, awkward state right now is because it has set up this pattern of school to villains, school to villains, school to villains, and that doesn't work that well anymore because of how high the stakes have been ramped. It's weird to say something's not healthy for a series, but it isn't. It just straight up isn't anymore, because it literally murders stakes. And while it's good to have your stakes fluctuate, you don't want everyone high tense all the time. To take multiple 20 chapter, 30 chapter, 40 chapter chunks of a narrative and completely just act like what happened in the previous arc, what happens with the villains, just doesn't matter. Especially right now, where Shigaraki's all for one right now and is completely on the loose to be able to beat any of the heroes that are present there, being able to do anything, and having him out the world, and then we're just going back to UA like nothing happened. It doesn't really work that well. Aizawa just lost a leg. There's so many things going on right now that I feel like the UA world can't say the same. We have to skip to a time and point where, due to external circumstances, everyone in UA who is capable has been promoted to a true hero now, and they're sort of fighting on the back foot against the rise of villainy. I feel like that would be a great place for it to go. I can easily see Horikoshi doing it. Now, this is where I say he may have not done it before. I don't remember a time skip in Oganamakizu, but I know there was a narrative he wrote even before that one. But that's what I'm saying. I feel like I need a time skip out of that. It doesn't have to be long. It literally could just be a year or 2 years. I prefer 3 years, so they're all adults now. But that's neither here nor there. It's not a necessity for the time skip to be long. I just think the time skip needs to change up the formula a bit, because not only will a change up of the formula be a good subversion of expectations, but it'll actually be a good one. Like not just subversion of expectations that it's something drastic and different, but it's a subversion of expectations that changes the entire world, in my opinion, for the better. However, tell me what you guys think about that. Moving on, the second thing we need in My Hero Academia to improve it is consequences. We cannot have characters, well, no, I'm being honest. We cannot have characters do these crazy things and just get away with it, because I'm going to assume that Bakugo is going to be perfectly fine despite being impaled on what appears to be multiple vital organs. I think that Aizawa is going to be mostly fine and just get a prosthetic leg or something like that. I feel like Midori is going to be mostly fine due to Eri being introduced into the narrative and or Recovery Girl lying about not being able to heal his body again. There are so many things that I feel like are going to be, it's going to be written off as okay, because consequences rarely ever stick in My Hero Academia. And if they do stick, they don't stick for long, or if they do stick, they're simply visual changes. The consequences that Aizawa got in the USJ arc, they amounted to a minor scar on his face. Every single consequence that Midoriya got, his hands are scarred up. That's really it. And since he wears his hero costume most of the time, it's not even visible for most of the relevant parts of the narrative. So stuff like that, Consequences. They need to be there. They need more heft put upon them so we know as a reader there are consequences for certain actions. Because currently we are wandering through the narrative as if we're in a Dragon Ball narrative where there are Dragon Balls, where we can know that at the end everything's going to be undone or it's going to be irrelevant. It's not good. It's very, very hard to get a reader invested in the series if they know that. So if you start introducing more and more vital consequences, then we're going to be able to establish a much more serious and tied in narrative. The reason I'd say narratives like Naruto, narratives like Seven Deadly Sins, narratives that have consequences that stick for the most part, and I don't think Seven Deadly Sins is the best of that. It keeps reviving. It revived a lot of characters out of nowhere, but I think a good switch up of including consequences for My Hero Academia, I feel like that would be very, very good because it'll lock the narrative down. And in fact, this will be another good subversion of expectations, because if there actually are lasting consequences, because then that shifts the reader's perspective. It will make the reader think, oh no, now we actually do have to worry. Now we actually do have to care every time a character goes into a battle. They aren't going to get out safe because consequences apply to so-and-so, so it has to apply to everyone else except for possibly Midoriya because main character status. So I think that is very, very important. I feel like that would be interesting, not only to see from a narrative perspective, but from a writing perspective, what Horikoshi could do as consequences. I think Aizawa being permanently disabled would be a good consequence, because obviously he's not one of the main characters, but he's one of the main supporting characters. So seeing him constantly lose that leg and not being able to be as useful as he was, he loses his combat ability basically, that would be good. I think Togata had decent lasting consequences, but it was implied as soon as Night Eye died that he was going to get something back, or he was going to be a hero anyway. So those consequences are only viewed as something temporary. I want something permanent and hefty. I know it's very hard to do. That's very hard to write, especially with popular characters that a lot of people like, but I feel like it's needed at this point. You gotta have consequences, or else there's really no stakes within your narrative. Moving on to number 3. There needs to be more balanced character usage. Now, I already talked about not too long ago about how the series has been power crept, and power crept to a degree that I believe a lot of characters simply can no longer function in the narrative in a vital way. However, to fix this, it's weird to say, because the issue with quirks as a power system, at least initially for me, was that they have biological limits. You cannot go train your magic to go get stronger. You cannot super train your muscles. But since My Hero Academia is basically ignoring all the rules that's set up from RIP, let certain characters, actually no, here's the thing, it's weird to say you don't have to power creep characters, as you do. You're going to have to power creep more characters so they can even be in the same league as Midoriya, since Midoriya is accessing ludicrous amounts of power, and if you want to balance character narratives and character usage, you're going to have to make everyone stronger to compensate for that. We're going to have to let Midoriya pause to let everyone else catch up. But more balanced character usage, that's the main thing. The issue with My Hero Academia right now is basically the Midoriya and Bakugo show, while it's mainly the Midoriya show. Bakugo shows up for about 5 seconds only to get smacked around easily. Look what happened. Bakugo came in at the end of the chapter, got stabbed, acted as a meat shield, and was thrown to the side. Why? Because he's not strong enough to do anything. Endeavor was stalling Shigaraki for about 5 seconds, but instantly got body bagged. Why? Because he's not strong enough. So many characters have been power crept out of the narrative that they're just acting as meat shields, and it's not that good. That's why it's a problem narrative-wise, because it makes you as a watcher realize that, oh, I don't have to care about any of this because there's no way they can win. So if you introduce more balanced character uses, and I don't mean, it's weird to say, I don't mean introduce more lesser villains that we obviously know are going to be taken care of by the lesser side characters. Don't introduce a whole bunch of lower tier thugs because they're forgettable. The only lower tier thug that I ever remember from My Hero Academia at all is always Rappa, because Rappa had an interesting backstory. So unless you can give that to every single character, which I believe Horikoshi could do if he really, really wanted to, unless he starts doing that, you need to let certain big bads have to be taken down by other characters. Let Todoroki do something again. Let Ida do something again. Let Bakugo do something. Can I really say again? He hasn't really done much. So let them come back and do more. Let Midoriya have to go take care of something else, so the side characters or other main characters like Bakugo and Uraraka can go do something of relevance. Because with the way the narrative is so heavily imbalanced now, there's no way for any of them to be useful outside of Midoriya, and that's not a good place you want your cast narrative. Like, I can't even use it as an example because I haven't read Berserk, but as far as I know, Berserk follows Guts, so it's fine that a lot of side characters don't get used that much. But My Hero Academia was introduced from rip basically as a ensemble cast, and there's no point in having an ensemble cast if you aren't going to use any of them. So please balance the character usage. That's really what I'm pushing for. And on top of that, I'm going to say it, I know I mentioned it in the past, please let the females do something. Just let them do, please. And the ironic thing is, you don't necessarily have to, well, based off what Shigaraki did to Ryukyu, you probably will have to, but a lot of the females actually have really strong quirks. Like I said, Ryukyu is a dragon. Nejire is basically a Dragon Ball character sitting in My Hero Academia. Uraraka can throw things up to 3 tons. Just do something with the women, please, Horikoshi. I'm begging you, man. I'm begging you, man. Like, you can design as many fantastic female characters as you do, which Horikoshi does. They're like, except for like Hagakure, there are no misses in My Hero Academia in terms of just pure design. Male and female, hero and villain. The man knows how to design, and I don't like Twice, but that's just because Twice is, I think, a Deadpool reference, and I don't vibe with that. I'm okay with Deadpool. I don't know, just the way Twice was done. I think that's why I didn't really care much about him. But please let the females do something. You don't have to. Oh, that's, like I said, that's a topic for another day. Gonna make a whole video on the misusage of female characters in My Hero Academia, but that's another topic for another time. And honestly, those are like the 4 main things I have to say to improve My Hero Academia. Because, and the reason I say it, these are all possible, is because we've seen it. Endeavor versus Hood, the high-end Nomu, was a case where Midoriya was not there to solve the problem, and thus powerful side characters had to do it, and it was great. The consequences, they honestly haven't been great, but let's act like Night Eye's proclamation that Mirio is going to be a good hero in the future didn't happen. That permanent consequence is good. It's just that Mirio as a character got thrown under the bus instead of teaching Midoriya combat, which would have been interesting for Mirio to teach him, considering he's the only part of Night Eye that could teach Midoriya after the fact. That's good. Those consequences are solid for that. Start introducing those more spread out. Don't just dabble them on characters. Apply them to main characters. Give the series more stakes. Because the more stakes it has, the more relieved we'll feel at the conclusion of an arc. I haven't really felt relieved at the conclusion of an arc in My Hero Academia since like the Stain arc. That was a while back. And I guess I felt relieved for Eri at the end of the overhaul arc. I felt bad for Gentle at the end of his arc. I didn't really feel relieved. I'm just like, oh, wow. Good job, Midoriya. You beat up a grown man. But that's it. That's it. Those are my ways to improve it. Do you guys have any more ways to improve it in the comment section down below? Please just tell me. I want to hear it, because I feel like a lot of people are fans of My Hero Academia, and we love what it's done so far, but I feel like we all have our own little ways that we want to improve it. So I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. Please just drop it down there and tell me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with a Pencil, writing off.